So fueling my coffee obsession, and possibly one of the most overlooked aspects to making a good cup of coffee, is the grinder. We spend hundreds, even thousands on coffee machines, and we can buy coffee pre-ground. But for good home coffee, you need a good home grinder, and this is often overlooked. Hi, welcome to Rich Man Poor Tech. For new viewers, this is a technology channel, and today's focus is on about coffee grinders, and in particular the Melitta Calibra coffee grinder. But before I get fully into this machine, why grind your own coffee at all? Why not just buy it already ground? First off, coffee tastes best when it's fresh. Not just roasted fresh, I'm not going to go into the science of why, but it does need a week to settle. But fresh, when it's full of aroma and flavour. And the best way to keep it fresh is to wait until the last possible minute to grind the beans. And it's from the grind that the coffee starts losing its flavour the quickest. Also, what grind do you want? Okay, so if you only drink one type of coffee, then I suppose you would know what grind you want. But different coffee preparation requires different grounds, for example. Cold brew requires extra coarse. Cafetiers and French press require coarse. Chemex requires a medium coarse. Filter percolators require a medium. V60 and pour overs require medium to maybe a slightly finer medium than the percolator. AeroPress is medium fine, and machine espresso is very fine. Now it might sound all a little bit daunting, but it's not when you get into it. So if you like different types of coffee, the ability to change the grind is one of the best things you can do to get good extraction and full of flavour. It really does improve your coffee, plus using one bag of beans quicker than having 3 or 4 different bags all open with different grind size will really step up your coffee game. If you don't live in a big city like London, for example, then there aren't all those independent coffee shops that you can get the coffee ground just the way you like, or if you just buy pre-ground supermarket coffee, then you only have 3 grinds to choose from, which might not be best for your machine. With electric coffee grinders costing from a little under £10 to thousands, what is the sweet spot? Well, forget those cheap metal blade grinders, sometimes referred to as coffee and spice grinders. Now they work by a spinning blade that chops and smashes the beans, good for whole spices, but not for coffee, and there's no way to regulate the size of the grinds. For coffee you want burr grinders. Now burr grinders work by having 2 cones that grind the coffee between them, and the gap between the burrs is what regulates the grind size. But not all burrs are the same. Cheaper burr grinders have ceramic burrs, where there's again a step up if you go for the metal burr grinders. So this takes us on to the Melitta Calibra grinder. If you're not familiar with the name Melitta, then let's see if I can jog your memory. Melitta is the German company who invented the coffee filter paper back in 1908. That I'm sure you've seen, probably bought, but maybe you don't recognise the name. Now Melitta do 2 coffee grinders, but it's only the Calibra that has the 40mm steel burrs. The cheaper Molino are actually grinding wheels, so they're not the same at grinding. So is the Melitta Calibra the best grinder out there? No, but it doesn't cost £3 either. Is it the best grinder in its price range? Quite possibly, depending on what you want. It sits in that sweet spot between price, quality and features. Has a few tricks up its sleeves, and it's easy to see why it won both the BBC Good Food Precision Grinder category and the Independent 2021 Indie Best Buy Award, and I'm sure countless other awards. Again, links in the description below as always to the current prices. So what are the plus points and the negatives? It has 3 different ways to produce your grind. You can either remember number of cups, weight, more on that in a bit, or manual time. Number of cups I think is self-explanatory and ideal for a starting point for say French press, cafetiers, percolators and ease of use. But the number one feature that sets this apart from other mills and grinders in its class is the built-in scales. This allows you to grind the exact weight of your coffee to the gram. Not only does this allow you to grind exactly only what you want for that perfect fresh coffee, as mentioned earlier, but obviously no waste, and therefore this will save you money over time. Brewing coffee to the weight is the biggest step in consistency. And consistency is the key to dialing in that perfect, repeatable cup of coffee. Changing the water ratio to a regular weight of coffee, or grind size for that matter, can allow you to dial in that perfect cup. For your information, a good ratio of 60 grams per litre is a good place to start, and 1 cup is about 250 ml or quarter of a litre, so 60 grams equals 4 cups and 30 grams equals 2 cups, etc. Now, the Melitta Calibra also has another trick up its sleeves when it comes to weighing. You can weigh straight into the filter on your V60 or storage jar, or any other container that fits on the scales. Then you set the scales to 0, and unlike some other grinders out there is sufficient room with its open size, or you could just grind into the included 200 gram collection container. To select the grind coarseness, as with a lot of grinders, you rotate the hopper to select the coarseness. But unlike a lot of other grinders, you also have 39 grind settings to choose from. So that's all the way from French press and cold brew down to espresso. Again, may sound daunting, but there's also little icons on here to help you choose a standard setting. The removable bean hopper size will hold 375 grams of beans, and it's also locking, allowing you to remove the hopper with the beans still in, without the beans going everywhere. Ideal if you want to change the beans for a different roast or different bean, for example. Now, you can also grind directly into a portafilter for espresso using the manual settings, but just to note, there is no portafilter holder included. So I'll also add a link to one of those, and I would recommend using a dosing ring. Again, I'll put a link into one of those as well, but please make sure that it suits the size of your portafilter. This grinder will grind espresso, but a possible downside, and this only depends on your own espresso machine, if you're making espresso at say 9 bar, then the fine setting might not be fine enough for you. Now, this can be overcome by a little modification, allowing the hopper to rotate further and the burrs to get even closer together for even finer grinding. I'll put a link to someone doing this in the description below, but be aware this would void your warranty. But if you have a pressurised espresso portafilter like I do, and on most other espresso machines sub £1,000, then it works fine straight from stock. Again, if supermarket bought ground espresso works for you, then I'm sure this will also work for you. I just thought that you should be aware of this. Build quality is good as you'd expect from a German company. It's easy to use and it looks good on the kitchen worktop with its nice brushed steel finish and black. Although quite tall to allow for the hopper and also to allow for you to be able to get something like a V60 in underneath, the footprint is not that bad. Now, all grinders are noisy, but as grinders go, this one's not too bad. And the aroma you get from the grinding the beans yourself and producing that fresh cup of coffee, I can tell you my kitchen smells like a coffee shop, and it's probably worth the money itself. So, do I recommend it? Well, yes. What are you waiting for?